All right, folks, welcome back to the TNT show. Um, it's a special episode, obviously. It's the bracket drop for college football, so we're about to just break into that and just discuss a few things. I know I missed last episode with the NFL, so I'm just glad to be back, and let's just go ahead and get into it. So, first question, you're looking at the bracket. Do you feel like they got it right initially?
No,
All right, you tell me who you feel doesn't deserve to be in the top 12.
I don't think Alabama deserves to be in there. I think SMU got snubbed.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um, Georgia being number two is a little high.
I thought so too.
Other than that, I mean, Miami at three might be a little bit of a stretch, but they are undefeated. But
Yeah. I mean, you gotta give it to them. I mean, they kind of earned that three spot. Just like Oregon is clearly the number one overall team in the nation.
yeah,
Uh, Georgia, I think they probably could have been just a tad bit lower, but I get the projection, so they project Georgia to win the SEC. Which, I mean, if they get in there, I think it's a good possibility, depending on who they play. Um, I think Texas at 5 is fair because I mean they'll more than likely be, if it, let's say playoff started today, more than likely they would be the highest ranked non-conference team or non-conference champion team. So um
yeah, the playoff bracket's a little weird.
yeah, I mean the first four teams are the Power Four conference champions. So that's how that goes. And then everything after that, like 5 is the highest rated, the highest ranked non-conference champion. So that's who they put in that spot. And then everything else after that is just kind of, I guess they go off of the criteria like wins, losses, strength of schedule, yada yada yada. So you were talking about Alabama, and as a fan, I agree. I don't feel like 11. I think 11 was kind of generous. I think they probably should have been on the outside looking in, like maybe 13, 14, something like that. Um, so
I mean, they're the only two lost team in there.
you know what? I did not pay attention to that.
But they love Alabama. The committee's going to put Alabama in there. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta say there's probably a lot of other teams who probably,
I
should have
mean,
been in that
SMU's
spot.
got one loss. Not really sure who they lost to, but the only reason I say that's Alabama got beat by an unranked team.
Yeah, but it's an unranked 6-3 team though, so it's not like they were terrible.
Yeah, but they were still unranked at the time.
That's true. That is true. That's why I said I agree with you. I don't feel like they should have been in the top 12, and that's just being honest.
Right
Now,
now, if I had to pick somebody to win it all, it'd probably be Oregon. I don't see Tennessee making it far. They don't have an offense aside from Dylan Sampson.
yeah, they're one elite defense away from um having another loss.
But it obviously this won't stay the same. You know, a lot of these teams still have to play each other. So, like Texas has still got to play. I mean, Georgia's still got to play Tennessee. Plus, they play Ole Miss this weekend.
Yeah.
Alabama obviously plays LSU Saturday. Texas still has to play Texas A&M. Ohio State still has to play Indiana. I'm not sure who BYU plays.
Honestly, I think BYU. Well, BYU's in the Big 12 now, so pretty much the way the Big 12 is looking, I think they're pretty much a lock for the playoffs. I think you go ahead and pencil them in for a playoff spot.
They're only a three
Uh-huh.
point favorite over a 4-4 Utah team.
I mean, that's Big 12 football for you. Now, I I don't see a lot of upsets based on this first bracket, but again, and this is just we're just spitballing here. If the playoffs were to start today, I think there are probably a couple of upsets on that bracket that would happen. And there'd probably be some exciting games. Like I think Boise State versus like uh who's their first round matchup on the bracket?
Ohio State.
Yeah, see, like that game right there will be kind of interesting because you got to think Boise State, Oregon had to kick a game winning field goal to beat them.
True.
So I think that'd be a pretty interesting game. I think, Ohio State maybe, out physicals Boise State at some point in that game, but you got to think Ashton Genty would probably go crazy against Ohio State's defense.
Yeah, he run all over Oregon.
Yeah, so
I think Indiana would beat Tennessee. They just don't have an offense, and Indiana's pretty good. People are kind of sleeping
Indiana
on them a little bit.
Indiana is pretty good. Nobody really expected them to be where they are this season. So hats off to them. Um,
I think the Alabama Texas game would be pretty good. Kind of be a little bit of a rematch.
that would be very interesting. And honestly, I think by the time the end of the season gets there, that bracket is going to be
Completely different.
1,000% different than what it looks like right now. Because, like you said, there's still ranked matchups that have to happen.
Yeah. I mean,
And
Alabama still has to play. I mean, Ohio State has to play Indiana, so obviously that's going to change.
yeah,
Boise State, they're pretty much a lock. They don't play anybody else.
exactly. They're
Notre Dame, I don't really know how Notre Dame works in
they'll
this because they're not in a conference. I would assume.
they play the ACC schedule, but they're not in a conference. Yeah, they
Yeah,
play
so
ACC teams, but they're not in that conference. They're independent. So
they got a pretty easy road the rest of the way. They got Florida State this week. They should be able to dominate. They should be able to blow them out.
yeah,
I mean, they're favored by 30. Literally favored by 30.
that's crazy.
They still got to play Army. That's the only other ranked team they got left is Army.
I hope Army puts up a better fight than Navy did because Navy looked good for about a quarter, and then Notre Dame just kind of put them over the knee.
I
So
mean, Indiana still got Michigan, Ohio State, and that's it. Purdue's only won one game. So,
yeah, if they can make it, I think if Indiana can make it through both of those games, and maybe
and
drop one.
realistically, Indiana has not had a close game all year. But to be fair, they haven't really. Here's the reason why they're so low. They haven't played anybody. They haven't played a single ranked team.
Exactly. So now you get to see them against Michigan and Ohio State. Like I said, if they lose either game, they can still get in. But I think their margin for error is kind of thin because,
If they lose one game, they're done. They're out. They'll be
yeah,
out. They
because of the
don't have
schedule.
a. Yeah, they won't have a premier win.
Yeah.
Like literally, the only ranked team they're going to play is Ohio State. So I mean, they've
Realistically,
literally killed. They've killed everybody they play. It hasn't been close. They haven't had a close game so far anywhere. The closest game they had was 31-17, and that was Washington. That was the closest game.
yeah, they'll have to beat Michigan, and I think win or lose to Ohio State, they can get in because I mean that's the only ranked opponent they play all season. If that's their only loss, then I think they get in.
I think obviously the committee is going to be biased towards the SEC. That's just how it works. So there's going to be at least 3 SEC teams probably.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think
We
max
just
there's
all
like
we all
three.
play each other. So one way or another, majority of the time, we don't get to play FIU and Massachusetts and North Dakota State. Like, we don't get to play teams like that.
Yeah,
We might get to play them once, but we don't have like a full schedule of that. So I
yeah. I
kind
mean,
of think that that's why some of these teams like SMU, I think that's kind of why. Because to be fair, they apples to apples. They haven't played anybody either. They haven't played a single ranked team. They played Pitt. That's the first ranked team they played, and they beat them by 20 points.
yeah. I mean, the ACC isn't a super strong conference this year. Normally, they have like at least you know 3 or 4 really good teams, like in like the past 5 years or so. But right now, I mean, Clemson just got blown out by Louisville.
Yeah.
And yeah, I kind of thought they were kind of, they were on the upswing, but I mean, that loss to Louisville looked pretty bad. So I can understand why they're not in the top 12. Could that change? More than likely, yeah. Um, so it was a pretty interesting first bracket. I mean, obviously, like you said, there's a bias towards certain conferences. Um,
Yeah, the SEC still got a long way to go. I mean, Texas has still got to get through. I mean, they still got. I mean, one way or another, it's still SEC play. They still got to get through Florida, which they say DJ Lagway could possibly play. So they still got to get through Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M.
yeah,
So not
that's a tough
top
stretch.
SEC talents, but it's not gonna. It could be a breeze, and it might not be. I don't know. Texas struggled 2 weeks ago versus Vandy.
I mean, the SEC is just a gauntlet every week. So, I mean, those are every SEC win is a tough win if the team is good or bad.
Penn State's pretty much a lock. They don't play anybody else that's even remotely close to good, so they should be fine. They'll get beat first round anyway.
Yeah.
They can never win the big games. Oregon's pretty much a lock. They don't play any. I don't think they play anybody else either. I'm going through their schedules. Yeah, they don't play anybody else. They play Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington, which they'll beat both of them, or they'll beat all three of them by 15 points probably. Tennessee still got. Yes, Tennessee still got to play Georgia, so that bracket that's going to change because they both have one loss. So one of them is going to be gone.
Exactly.
And then you got, like you said, you got the team sitting on the outside looking in. SMU still sitting there. Texas A&M is sitting there. They still got to play. A&M still has to play. They play Texas at the end of the year. So one way or another, that will change a lot.
So right now, who's your dark horse right now? Obviously you can go from the bracket of the top 12, or you can say somebody that's like right outside the top 12. They can get in and make a run. They can win the whole thing.
I probably I probably gonna have to say Oregon to be honest. I want to
Oh
say
no.
Oregon, but I want to say Oregon, but that's who I think is gonna win it. I want to say
Yes.
them, but they, to be fair, they really haven't played anybody either. To be honest,
Yeah, but we know. I want your dark horse. Who do you think somebody that has the if they can get in and make a run, or if they're already in, but they're like, let's say they're like a lower seed or something, or they're a team that nobody really expects, like like Penn State or somebody, because they can't win
I
big
think if
games.
LSU gets in, they can make a run.
Yeah,
We got to get in though.
Yep, they got a tough test coming up this weekend. Alabama. That's pretty
Other
much
than that, I don't really see anybody kind of making a splash because the only real teams that are going to play a big factor in this are going to be the SEC teams because aside from Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama and Ohio State and Indiana, everybody else is smooth sailing.
that's true.
Like Oregon doesn't play anybody else, so they'll they'll probably either have to play Ohio State. They'll probably have if they'll either have to play Ohio State or Indiana in the Big Ten. So that's going to change. Never mind. I take that back. So that's going to change. There's no threat in the ACC for Miami. And not really. SMU maybe. Boise, they're fine. Their conference is terrible. Notre Dame doesn't even play in the conference, so they're pretty much a lock as long as they don't get beat. A&M still plays Texas. LSU obviously still has to get through. Let's see who we got left. So we got Florida, we got y'all, Alabama, we got Florida, Vandy, and Oklahoma. That's a tough three. That's tough sledding right there. Florida's a
Yeah.
huge rivalry. Vandy's a solid football team. And Oklahoma's not going to be a slouch defensively. So
Yeah.
I think if we can get in, I think we can make a run.
I could see that though. I mean, y'all made a big run right there in that little middle stretch of the season, and then it kind of ended against Texas A&M. But you're still kind of hopeful for LSU because their offense is pretty explosive, and the defense has been playing really good football. So
We just don't have like a dominating win yet. Like we could prove we need to prove a point tomorrow. Like if we're gonna make a run, we need to beat Alabama like convincingly. Like if we struggle, barely win, kicking a field goal or something, I don't see us making a run very far.
mm, I think if I think if
I'd say there's only a few teams we would probably realistically beat in this top 12 in the 12 team bracket, and it's probably like two or three, to be honest. I don't want to be biased, but
I think if
I
LSU,
think LSU could. I don't know if they could beat Miami.
I think they could beat Miami because Miami's defense, it'd be a shootout for sure. But I don't think Miami's defense will be able to make as many plays as LSU's defense would. So, like I said, you got to really go back to the conference. The SEC, I mean, you getting pretty much everybody's best every single week. So it's going to prepare
Penn
you
State, they're
for,
the same old Penn State they always are.
yeah, it'll prepare you for a playoff run. Now, I think, like you said, I think if LSU can, it doesn't even have to be convincing. They just have to beat Bama, and I think that gives them all the momentum in the world to, you know, look to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if Alabama gets in there, they might be able to make a run. I wouldn't want to play Texas right off the bat, but
Yeah, that's a tough first game for playoffs. I mean, that would probably give you that's like a national championship game in most people's eyes.
yeah, Miami, if they got to play, they need that first round bye. If not, they'll get put out. Their defense is terrible. Their defense is god awful.
But their offense is so good though. So
Yeah, but
somebody's
Yeah, but
somebody's defense has to stop them.
well, if the playoff bracket was right now, Alabama or Texas would beat Miami because they don't have a. They'd stop that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might be a little high scoring, but eventually they'd stop Miami's offense. They might not. I don't know. They might not. But the thing is, though, Miami wouldn't be able to stop them. They
exactly.
shouldn't be able to anyway.
Exactly. No, that's what I
BYU,
was saying.
BYU, I haven't really seen them play a whole lot. I don't even think that we'd get to watch them a whole lot unless they just play somebody good. Um, I watched the Oregon Ohio State game. Like you said, I think the Ohio State Boise game, I think that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty good game.
Indiana, Tennessee, yeah, that'd probably be a little bit of a good game because Tennessee does have a good defense, but Indiana is also a really good team. But it's hard to tell how good these teams are because everybody thought TCU was going to hang in there, was going to beat Georgia, and Georgia beat them 65-3 or 63-3, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty interesting in terms of
Is
just
as crazy as it might sound, Notre Dame might make a run. They've only lost one game, and that was the first game of the year to Texas
man,
A&M.
no. Well, no, Notre Dame they lost to Northern Illinois,
Oh, that's right. They
but
beat. Oh, that's right.
yeah, but they've won every other game. But I mean,
Texas
again,
A&M lost
it's
to Notre Dame. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're
yeah,
right.
the ACC conference is a bit more weak this season, so I think what's really going to be interesting with throughout the 12 teams is just the playoff matchups and who because I think in the first round of games you play at the team's field. You don't play in a bowl game.
I think they're neutral. No, I think they're neutral.
Are they?
I think so. I could be wrong.
Oh
I
yeah, I
don't
didn't
know.
I didn't really know. I gotta go look at that. But I think that's gonna be a big factor if they're not neutral site games where the lower seeded team like obviously has to go play. So I think that'll be a
Uh
factor.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I'm looking at it right now. So we got college football playoff quarterfinal. Let's see. No, it'll be bowl games. It should be because that'll be the end of the season.
Well,
Let's see. Let's just see where the yeah. So the quarterfinals is the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the Sugar Bowl. So that's all neutral. Now the
okay, yeah,
first
no, you're right.
ones, I don't know. I would imagine they're probably going to be bowl games. And the reason I say that is because it's just a neutral site.
Yeah. It's
and
it
and it
it's
and it kind of fills the spots. You got to think those are big games,
that is
so
true.
you put those big games in like the I don't know what bowls are good now, but you could put them at the Citrus Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl,
Yeah, that's true. Because those
a,
used to be really big, and then since
a
the
New
playoffs, they
Year's
kind of
Six
just
games. Yeah,
they kind of just fell off because it's all about the playoffs now. So, um, yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm super excited. I mean, the first bracket drop, I think there's a lot left to be said. So we'll come back uh and just every week they update it. We'll just add it into our
yeah, because the
what
semifinals. So the semifinals are the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, and then
yeah.
obviously there'll be the national championship.
Yeah. So yeah, we can just we'll add this into we just for the initial one, we wanted to just do a special episode for y'all. We just kind of just, rambled about it a
But
little bit.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that first round bye is huge.
Yeah, because you get the rest while everybody else is duking it out.
Playing. Yeah, that's that's
Yeah.
that's kind of huge.
Now that's
I don't
good,
know
but
why
it can
they just
also
didn't
be
do that.
bad. It can
Yeah, because
also be bad.
yeah, especially if you're like rolling. Like a lot of teams get hot at the end of the year. Say you take a week off.
Exactly.
Say Indiana beats Tennessee in a thriller. Just hypothetically, Indiana beats Tennessee. They're coming off of a good game.
Yeah.
Oregon didn't play last week, so might be a little sloppy. But then again, Indiana's quarterback or Tennessee's quarterback or somebody could get hurt, and then it's pretty much a done deal from there. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this. So say for instance the bracket happens.
Okay.
And say for instance last year it's a great example. Say for instance they did the final bracket
Okay.
and say I don't know, Jalen Milroe tears his ACL last game. Say they win the SEC championship, but he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Do you put in Alabama with a backup quarterback, or do you slot them out for somebody else?
Um. Honestly, I think that's one of those. It's
Or do
like
you
a
keep
case
it,
by case scenario.
keep it fair because they won?
I mean, comparing it to last season is a little different because you got to think their backup quarterback. It wasn't even their backup quarterback. They were down to their third string quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. Say Milroe got hurt in the SEC championship game. Say, for instance, I don't know, something crazy happens. Last drive, he gets hurt. They kick a game-winning field goal to beat Texas. Do you put
Bama was still
Alabama? Do
game.
you move them to the quarterfinals with Milroe? Say he's hurt for the season, like he
Yeah,
tore his ACL or something. You
they're
just put
still
him in
gonna
there.
they're still gonna go play. They're still gonna put them in there just because. I mean, it's the backup quarterback. You got to think the backup quarterback gets plenty of. I wouldn't necessarily say game time, but they get plenty of like first team reps just in case something like that happens. I
I'm
think
just curious to see if they would do that or if they would slot, say Texas, just because say they played Miami with a backup quarterback that hadn't played all year long. That game probably ain't going to be very good to watch. It probably wouldn't necessarily matter because Miami doesn't have a very good defense because Alabama would just, probably run the ball down their throat, to be honest.
Uh, I see. I think that Florida State situation was just kind of like an outlier because you got to think they won their conference, but you could clearly see the difference in their offense between
Yeah.
their third string quarterback and Jordan Travis, their starter. So clearly, they would not have been any
Oh,
competition for.
Michigan would have beat them by 30 points
Yeah, it
or
wouldn't have not.
whoever they would have played.
It wouldn't have been a good. It just would not have been a good game. So like saying that situation that happened this year could be a little different because in most cases, like for a lot of these teams, it have to be one of the teams at like the very bottom. Which I mean, obviously Alabama is one of the teams that's towards the lower
That's why
end.
that's why I said them
Yeah, at
and
11,
not
but
like Ohio State.
yeah, but you would still have to put them in there though because I mean,
Well, yeah, they won it, so they don't. You That's the rules. If you win your conference, you're automatically going.
yeah. So
Okay, say you didn't win and you made the playoffs and Milroe got hurt. Do you think they'd slot somebody else?
yeah, they put somebody else in there. If they're still like, let's say they're still towards the bottom of the bracket by the time, they win out, but Milroe gets hurt in the very last game of the season, they'll probably put Alabama in just a regular bowl game because obviously that team's not going to be the same with their backup quarterback compared to Jalen Milroe, who's had all of the game time and, those kind of moments.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the playoffs. I mean, you never know. I mean,
Oh,
you never know.
no, you're
But
right. You're
yeah,
right.
I'm just curious to see if that is a factor, like how they're going to go about that, because I feel like that was the whole point of the 12-team playoff was see what I wanted them to do, what they should have done. I know they couldn't have done it. I wish they would have just implemented it last year. Okay, Florida State, maybe they did deserve to be in there. Their defense obviously earned it. They were still
They didn't.
undefeated.
They were not a good football team offensively. They would have got.
I know. Well, I know that, but I feel like maybe they should have said, okay, let's implement. I think they should have had a playoff. Like, okay, Florida State, you're going to play. It was a tie, bro. It was like a tie, wasn't it? Who else got left out?
No, it was honestly just really Florida State and I don't remember all the teams that had one loss that were sitting at the bottom, but that's tough to have a play in for the playoffs because I
They
mean,
could have done it though.
yeah, I mean that would have been cool to see, but I think just given
They could
the
have just said,
situation
look,
for Florida State,
the number one team, you get a bye. You get a bye. The number one team, you get the bye. All right. So Florida State, you're going to play whoever. They were going to be slotted. What, number 4? Yeah, number 4. So they would have
but
played. I just thought it would have been interesting. Obviously, they wouldn't have won because I mean, like you said, they didn't have a very good offense. I just think that obviously, you just got to be careful now because if somebody does get hurt, you're probably more than likely not going to go, no matter how good you are. I mean, it depends on the situation. Obviously, like if Quinn Ewers got hurt, Texas would probably still go because Arch Manning has played and did win what, 2 games, 3 games?
yeah, something like that.
So they'd probably make a case for them. But we haven't seen Ty Simpson, so we don't really know.
True. Uh
I think it would just, like you said, it'd be a case. Like you just have to make an argument. Okay, who are I think it would depend on who they're playing. If you wanted me to be 100% honest,
that's what I was about to say. I think it depends on where
it
they
would
fall
depend
in
on
the
who they're
bracket.
playing.
No, no,
Like
and not even who they're playing.
if they fell and played another SEC team, yeah, they'd probably sub somebody else because honestly, a backup quarterback
Nah, nah.
probably
I
wouldn't do
think
very well. But you never know. I mean,
it
LSU
depends.
just
It
got beat
depends.
by LSU got beat by A&M's backup quarterback in the second half. He scored 30 points, and there wasn't nothing we could do about it. Hey,
I think
sometimes that's your biggest weapon, if you want me to be honest. Nobody has seen him play all year, so you don't know what he's going to come out there and do.
that's true, but
Look,
I think
Ohio
it
State won the national championship with their third with what's his name?
Cardale Jones.
Yeah, their third string quarterback.
Yeah, but look, I honestly I think it. I don't think it depends on who you play. I think it depends on where you fall in the bracket. Obviously, if you're in like the higher middle portion of the bracket, they're not going to take you completely out of the playoffs just because one of your players got hurt. That's why they went ahead and I think that's why they went ahead and utilized the 12 team this year because of that situation right there. So if they had the 12 team last year, even though Jordan Travis got hurt, Florida State probably would have still went to the playoffs. And honestly, I don't think they would have got far with that speculation because we don't know because it didn't happen. So
Yeah,
hopefully
because as
everybody's
soon as the ball, like it's like you said, if you don't make this 12-team playoff, to be honest, I know this is going to sound stupid. I know people like the bowl games, but they're irrelevant. Bowl games used to mean something, but now they don't.
yeah, for most teams they really don't. That's why you see so many opt-outs, but you still see a good bit of teams who actually all the players play because they love the game of football. So,
I'm curious to see if somebody. I know we talked about it at the very beginning of like when we started the podcast. I'm curious to see if anybody would sit out during this time.
no, nobody's going to wait, you talking about like the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm curious to know if anybody would.
No, nobody's going to opt out of the playoffs.
Say for instance, who's a good option here? Say for instance, Ashton Genty won the Heisman. Hypothetically, he won the Heisman. You know, potential. first round pick.
He's not opting out of the playoffs, bro. Come on now.
You don't think anybody will do it?
No, this is the playoffs we talking about. You trying to give your team a shot to win a national championship. You are not going to leave them out on the field all
Huh?
because you want
You
to.
you'd be surprised if you
Man,
want.
there's absolutely no way. If it's a ball game, of course, because like we said, they're
I
irrelevant.
mean,
But we're talking
Andrew
about the
Richardson tapped out of coming out of a game-winning drive. I know it's not the same
that
thing.
we're talking about the playoffs though. This is the playoffs. Nobody's gonna opt out of the playoffs because you're in. I mean, you get in. That's the thing. Everybody wants
Do
to
you
be in the
think that would
playoffs.
cause a lot of chaos if they did?
Absolutely. I mean, if they opt out, let's say they opt out the day before a game. Obviously, you know, you can't put anybody else in there, so they got to play, and they're gonna get destroyed. And then there's gonna be a bunch of controversy, like should players be forced to play in like playoff or bowl games or something like that. So like I said, there's always going to be a conversation. There's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be, you know, a lot of stuff going on. So
Yeah, if I had to put two teams in there right now, based off what I'm looking at, I'd probably go. I'd probably go Oregon, Texas, but based off what I'm looking at,
yeah,
I just don't know if you're going to see a lot of teams twice, maybe three times, depending on how the bracket falls. So it's hard to beat somebody twice.
that's true.
I mean,
That
Ohio
is
State
true.
could catch Oregon again the way that this is laid out, and Texas could catch Georgia again.
Exactly.
I mean, Ohio State could play Oregon three times, depending on what happens. They could catch
Yeah,
them in the
it's a
conference championship. I think
and
if
the
they lose
playoffs.
the conference championship, they might not make it. I don't know. And then catch them again in the playoffs. That's playing somebody three times.
Yeah, but you got to think though. They're both higher teams on the bracket. So if they were to lose to Oregon again, I don't think that knocks them out of the playoffs. Again, depending on how the rest of the season plays out for every. Because you're losing to the number one team twice. So that means you deserve to get in. Maybe just don't put them in the same part of the bracket. Put them in the different part of the bracket. Maybe they see each other in the national championship or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it'll get crazy. You know, this is the first one, like you said. So it's gonna change week to week just because there's still a lot of teams that still gotta play each other.
Yeah.
So obviously next week it'll be a whole lot different. So we will find out.
Yeah. Um, I think that's all we got, like, for this special episode, of course. We'll talk off the pod about how we want to keep doing them week to week. Maybe we'll just add in like some, short segments about the changes um into our podcast that we normally drop on Tuesdays. Or I
Before you
think
cut off, I wanna add one more thing before you cut
go
off.
ahead.
It just came to me. So do you think they should implement like a different overtime rule here?
No.
No, keep it the same. Okay. I was just curious how you felt about that. Keep it the
Now,
same.
if we were talking NFL, I'd say absolutely, because they should definitely change theirs for regular season. Because I know they changed it for the playoffs, but college football, I like how it is now. Because I mean, maybe they could change it to where you have to go the full field. But I mean, you got to think it's bigger than just the game. It's also TV time and ratings and stuff like that too. So I think that's why those rules are the way that they are. Because there's a lot of college football that's played, and you don't really want that time to bleed too much into the next game.
I was just curious if you thought that they might implement something else,
They could down the road because
maybe do something a little bit different.
yeah, because you got to think they're talking about expanding the playoffs again to I think 14 teams like in the next couple of years. So it's I'd imagine we're gonna see all kinds of stuff, to be completely honest, but only time will tell. I mean, for what we're looking at right now, I like the idea. Of course, 12 teams gives a lot more opportunity for a lot of people. So,
Yeah, yeah, I
but
agree.
but
What if they
you
did it
know,
like the NFL? Like first team that like you get the ball and you gotta drive the whole field and first team to score wins.
no, I wouldn't like that.
You wouldn't
That's
like
why they
that.
had to. Yeah, that's why they had to change the playoffs for the NFL, because I mean, it's
Yeah,
not.
I just the only thing I don't like about college is starting on the 25. I wish they'd back it up to like the 50.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good start. That'd be a good start, because then it's not like, because most people off the 25. I mean, you're getting like one play and you're pretty much almost ready to score.
Yeah, but I do like it. After the first overtime, you just got to go for two. I do like that instead of just going back and forth.
Yeah, because that used to drag the game out when they before they changed that.
Or instead of doing that, instead of the 2 point conversion, you get four downs to score. That's it. There's no first downs. You're on the say you're on the, they'll put you on the 10. You get four downs. That's it. Instead of going for two, you get four downs. Each team, you get four downs, and that's it. Four down, touchdown.
I mean, that is pretty interesting.
Like if the other team doesn't score, you can kick a field goal. But the
Yeah,
first team, yeah, if you want to kick a field goal, fine, whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I like that. But yeah, we won't ramble too much. That's all I got. I was just curious, if you thought that they might implement something a little bit different, make it a little bit more interesting. It is a 12-team playoffs instead of the 25. Maybe put them at the 45.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's actually a really good idea.
Just something a little bit different. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right, well, like I said, we'll talk off the pod. I mean, because if these updates come every Tuesday, then we'll probably just have to get y'all a rankings episode or like a bracket update every week up until we get the final one, and then we'll do like a full episode on predictions for the bracket, like the by round or whatever. So we'll throw some stuff around off the pod, and we'll keep y'all updated as we go week to week. But that's pretty much all we have for y'all today. So we will catch y'all in the next episode.